Time to talk some football now. A massive night in North London as Arsenal hosted Paris Saint-Germain in the first leg of their UEFA Champions League semi-final showdown at the Emirates Stadium. Both sides fought hard to gain the edge ahead of the return leg in Paris, who struck first in the high-stakes battle. Here's how it all went down.
Scalia here, nicely found. Timber with his eyes laser focused on the ball, and Paris Saint-Germain have the lead, and Dembele has scored after only 3 minutes play. It's a brilliant finish by Dembele. Paris lead.
Well, it's exactly the start, isn't it, that Paris Saint-Germain would have wanted. This is what Dembele does. He'll drop into those midfield positions, starts the play off. Kvaratskhelia, once he gets 1v1, wants to beat his man. You know he can go inside and outside, but it's just a lovely little pullback to...
Fabian Ruiz helping it on to Kvaratskhelia. 3 around him, and he wriggles through and goes down, no penalty. Little flick off Marino, it's Doué, good save. And on the return, it's Fabian Ruiz who hits the post. And Arsenal get away with it, and the flag now goes up. Odegaard's delivery is not of the highest calibre. Oh, Hakimi with a slip, this is dangerous! Is that a foul, João Neves? Well, the referee, Slavko Vincic, says not. Saka. Saka again, wriggling. And scooping to Martinelli, who can't quite reach it. Long from David Raya, Marino around the back, Trossard, and Donnarumma is there. Good play, Lewis Skelly. Hakimi needs to be careful, now it's a brilliant ball. Martinelli, superb save by Donnarumma. Declan Rice with the curling ball into the area, it's in!
Well, what a start for Arsenal. It's exactly what they would have wanted. Marino will get the plaudits, and rightly so. It's a really brave header.
He second guess it, here we go. It's no goal. He's been solid since he's been called upon.
Yeah, he really has. And
hold on, what a run by Rice. Trossard here, Trossard! And Donnarumma does it again. Barcola. Gonzalo Ramos back into Bradley Barcola, in on goal and wide of the post. And that's an enormous let-off for Arsenal. Marquinhos over the top, and the flag has stayed down. Gonzalo Ramos here, and he's hit the woodwork.
So a gripping encounter there in London. Joining us now via Zoom to break it all down is former TNT international Brent Sancho, who is under new government in TNT with Kamala Besar becoming Prime Minister again. Party that you once represented as an MP there, Brent. Any thoughts on what happened last night?
Yeah, it was a sports minister under the then coalition government under Ms. Besar. First of all, congratulations to her and her new tenure. I guess it was a bit of a weakening of surprise for many supporters of the then government. But as they say in politics, Lance, the voice of the people is the voice of God. So that there certainly sent a message throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah,
okay, we'll see how things pan out. I know the horse racing people might be happy because the UNC is on record as giving horse racing more support than the government who has just replaced. Anyway, Brent, we're here to talk about Arsenal and PSG. What a match. PSG coming out with a very, very important victory, but a lot of people looking on feeling that it could have been a bigger margin.
Yeah, certainly could have been. So a lot of credit must be given to PSG. As you rightfully said, an entertaining game of football. PSG played the way I expected Arsenal to play. They were on their front foot, they pressed high up the park, they dominated the midfield, and that midfield trio, who I thought was absolutely outstanding. Donnarumma was big in goal, and of course Dembele, their talisman and their lead player, scored the all-important goal, and that's the sort of performance I was expecting from Arsenal. I thought many of their top players just didn't perform here this afternoon, and I think they would be bitterly disappointed. Albeit, of course, guys, it's only 1-0 and still a lot to play for. But all in all, a disappointing performance from Arsenal. But you've got to give PSG a lot of credit. They went to the Emirates and they dominated.
Yeah, any thoughts on Dembele, Brent? Because 25 goals now in the calendar year and we are still in April. It does suggest that he's banging form. But any thoughts on the sort of form that he's been in? Because we've been seeing him for years, but there's something special about what he's doing now.
Well, we've argued so many times about his lack of an end product, and that has certainly gone out the window. So he's brought his silky smooth play with an end product, which has made him very irresistible and unplayable at times. I think the position he picks up almost in that false nine position where he drops into the middle of the park, his understanding between the midfield play of Ruiz and Neves in particular, and his ability to bring his wide players in has been instrumental for PSG, and his of course ability to show that cutting edge in the box with that strike and of course put it to the back of the net. That's a top class finish from Dembele, and you would think with a player like that part of your squad that PSG has every right to feel that they can get out to the second leg the same way they got out of this fixture at the Emirates and comfortable going into the finals.
Yeah, for sure, Brent. But do you feel, especially in the second half, that the PSG that we saw in the first half or the start of the match didn't exist? And I felt like, you know, they just relaxed a bit in the second half because there were many opportunities where PSG could have capitalized and extended that lead against Arsenal.
Well, I think it's a combination, really. I think Arsenal started to play a little bit more on the front foot, press high up the park, and move their lines up the field a bit. And of course, PSG recognizing that quite capable of hitting Arsenal in transition, which they did have a couple of opportunities to extend the lead. So I think the game, the way the game flowed, changed significantly in the second half because of those factors. That being said, I think Arsenal will be buoyed by some of the snippets that they produced in the second half. But I think, Mariah, if you're Arsenal fan, you'd be concerned that the likes of Saka and Odegaard really didn't come to the show today. And for Arsenal to get out of Paris with some sort of result to move them forward, they would need two big performances from those players, and it just didn't happen for them today.
Yeah, Saka and Odegaard not showing up, as you said. And then we can't forget Thomas Partey, big piece of this Arsenal puzzle missing today. He should be fine for the second leg.
Yeah, he should be fine, and we spoke a lot about it in a pre-game show, of course, that we aired here on SportsMax, about that balance, because Partey allows Declan Rice to play almost like an 8, and because he wasn't there, because he didn't give that security they normally get, and because he wasn't there, and the physicality that he brings to the game as well, and of course his street smarts as a player that's been there, done that. Arsenal did look a bit unbalanced in the middle of the park. Of course, they asked Marino to drop back a bit, someone that played high up the park and played as a striker for the most part. So it looked very disjointed, Brian, in the midfield. And this game, and this tie for that matter, really comes down to the battle in the middle of the park. And you'd have to say that PSG won this game because of the outstanding play from their midfield. And Arsenal lost because they were very disjointed and unbalanced in this fixture.
And what about Mikel Arteta and what he did? Because Arsenal didn't make a substitution until the 83rd minute. I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it does, and I think maybe in hindsight he may look at it and felt that he could have changed things up, a bit earlier. I think the fact that the team seemed to be on the cusp of getting into the game, as I said, there were snippets where they were getting better moments in the game where they were showing some sign of a fight back. And maybe sometimes as a coach you get caught up in the belief that you just want to leave things as is, so to give your team that opportunity to get before you make those changes. But that being said, I think even with the changes, the impact was little, albeit of course it was late in the game. But overall, you'd have to say, Mariah, that PSG was good value for money and really deserved to win. Of course, there are a few chances, and Donnarumma was outstanding in goal with some of the saves that he made. But that's what you expect from a top-level goalkeeper. And all in all, I think when you look at the game in its entirety, you'd have to say PSG was a better side today.
Yeah, PSG definitely the better side, Brent. I just want to stay on the issue of Arsenal substitutions because I see a number of Arsenal fans saying, and it's not just because of today, but for a while now, that Ethan Nwaneri deserves more opportunities in this Arsenal setup. What say you?
He probably does, but I think in the grand scheme of things, I think what Arteta wanted probably players with a bit more experience. Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, of course, have tried and proven and trusted front three. This is a big night for the football club. And he may have felt that he needed to go with experience. And that's normal for a coach to do something like that. And of course, the young man will probably have to wait to get bigger opportunities. I wouldn't be surprised if he's brought in or even starts in the next fixture. But again, Arsenal need to claw themselves back into it. Of course, all players would need to show their worth. But you have to say it's not really necessarily about one player, whether late substitutions. I think what PSG did today was truly outstanding, because you have to put that up against what we saw from Real Madrid in that very same Emirates a couple of weeks ago. So it was a very good away team performance, and you have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, let's talk about PSG a little bit, because as much as we sit here and we speak about how wonderful they were, and indeed they dominated this game in truth, but it's still only 1-0, and Arsenal are very much still in this tie, Brent. How disappointed would PSG be that they didn't really finish off this tie, given the quality of their performance today and the quality of the chances they had, especially in the second half?
Very, very disappointing, because when you look at the sorts of opportunities, when you look at the way they created the opportunities and the reasons why the ball didn't end up in the back of the net, they have every right to be. I think that the chances that they had, they just should have been better. It really needed a bit more thrust and a bit more belief in some of these situations. Dragging the shot wide there, Bakola, when he really should be hitting the target, he's about 8 yards out, and those sorts of situations, and of course Ramos here with the unconventional toe poke, he really should have put that either side of rear. But those are the sorts of chances that, as we know in Champions League football, you need to score. Because a 2-0 scoreline going back to Paris, it's a completely different game for Arsenal to look at. And, for now, you've left the stadium, PSG that is, after doing so well. And all you have to show for of course, the great football that you played is 1 goal. So it's still a battle in Paris. And as you rightfully say, they probably should have gone up by more goals.
Yeah, Brent, as we approach the conclusion of this season's UEFA Champions League, Heineken has rolled out a brand new promotion for viewers in Trinidad and Tobago called Predict the Score. Here's how it works. On match days, you'll have the opportunity to predict the outcome of matches, to try and win prizes from Heineken. Simply register, select the current match day, and make your predictions for matches at least 10 minutes before kickoff. Then wait for the results to see if you have scored enough points to win. You can also visit the leaderboard to see where you stand. We're turning our attention now to the other semi-final between Barcelona and Inter Milan, who will clash in the first leg in Spain on Wednesday. Brent, what are your expectations from this clash? Very big game here. The Barca team have won just one of the last 3 fixtures against Inter, with a draw and a loss as well. Inter were the challengers here.
Yeah, I tell you what an intriguing fixture. Both teams have very different styles and different approaches to the game. Certainly both teams stick to their identity, their playing identity, and hold that through. For Barcelona, it's all about whether or not they can impose themselves onto a very well-oiled, well-organized Inter Milan team, and a team that has been here and done that before. Very experienced and very good in these types of situations. And a young Barcelona team that certainly would have to come out of the gates running, and would need to, I believe, if they are to get out of this tie, to win by at least 2 clear goals to take, of course, go back to Italy to try to continue on that way. But it's such an intriguing tie. I talked about how interesting this one was, this Arsenal PSG game, but I think this game really covers the football landscape as it relates to 2 contrasting identities in football, and it should be intriguing.
Yeah, but the bookmakers in Europe have in the recent weeks, Brent, labelled Barcelona as the favourites to win the entire UEFA Champions League, but this is a difficult hurdle, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, I think you could say that Barcelona, because of the way they've played in the Champions League and their domestic form as well, they've blown teams out the park. Arguably, the best front three in football right now, with a lively midfield, and of course a Hansi Flick that is one of the great tacticians in world football. But when you come up against an Inter Milan team, and we've seen what they've been able to do, particularly in this competition, and particularly over 2 legs, and how experienced they are, and how well they stick to their way that they want to play, it is a difficult game for Barcelona. And I think a lot of the things that make Inter Milan good are the things that Barcelona struggle to cope with. And that rigid defense and resilience that Inter Milan has, I think they are very capable of stopping this Barcelona team. So again, I think it's the tougher time for Barcelona, certainly so, because this Inter Milan team is built for these 2-legged affairs.
Yeah, Robert Lewandowski missed the Copa del Rey final because of a hamstring injury, but they won over Real Madrid despite that. He'll be missing again in this fixture. How big a loss would that be for Barca?
I think he's a huge loss. I think what he does, not just in the scoring department, but his movement off the ball, of course, the ability to hold it up, and the ability to bring both Rafinha and Lamine Yamal into the play has been an essential part of Barcelona's success this season. So I think from a Barcelona point of view, it's not what you want to hear. Of course, there are able replacements to come in. But all in all, I think from what Lewandowski have done this season, I think he would be a miss.
Okay, Brent, we're going to leave it there. Anxious looking forward to that clash between Barca and Inter Milan on Wednesday. And we look forward to seeing your analysis on the game as well. We'll talk again soon.
All right, guys, have a great one.
Yeah, Brent Sancho there. And we go to break now. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.